Welcome to Toksave, Culture Talks, the podcast of PARADISEC, the Pacific and Regional Archive for digital sources in endangered cultures. I'm Jodie Kell.
And I'm Stephen Gagao. These are conversations with people who have personal and cultural connections to the languages and music in our archive.
As producers of this podcast, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which it is recorded and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to all First Nation contributors and listeners. And please be aware that this podcast may contain the voices of deceased people.
This episode will focus on Peroveta, a type of singing also known as prophet songs. Due to the influence of Christianity coming from the London Missionary Society and their South Sea Islander missionaries, this form of singing was adopted in the National Capital District, the Central and Milne Bay provinces of the southern region of Papua New Guinea. Peroveta is historically and religiously embedded in the Papuan Christian community. It has shaped Papuan identity and music through its unique combination of biblical scriptures, missionary histories, and local customs expressed through traditional choral music sung with soaring and interweaving parts. The episode will feature recordings from the PNG Peroveta Singers of Canberra, made in 2023 by the PARADISEC team. This choir was formed in 1999 by diaspora community members in the ACT, and since then they have performed at events such as the National Folk Festival, as well as meeting regularly at the Holy Cross Anglican Church in Hackett to learn and sing Peroveta songs together.
Choir coordinator and performer Deveni Temu is our guest for the episode. Deveni is a retired librarian who worked in various institutions in Papua New Guinea, New Caledonia and the ACT, Australia. Until his retirement in early 2018, he was the Pacific librarian at ANU Menzies Library. Deveni was born and raised in the Kapari and Viriola villages of the Aroma Coast in the central province of Papua New Guinea, and he speaks Hula, Keapara and Motu languages. Deveni has been involved with PARADISEC in a previous Toksave podcast, episode 11 in 2022. He is passionate about promoting and passing on cultural knowledge to Papua New Guineans living in their diaspora through songs and dances. It was through discussion with Deveni that we were introduced to the choir, whose members were interested in responding musically to the Peroveta songs in our archive, as well as adding to recordings of and knowledge about Peroveta singing styles.
The episode includes excerpts from the PARADISEC collections, MG1 and IC1. The IC1 collection consists of recordings of dance and church music made by Ian Campbell in Tubuserea village in 1969. Ian was participating in the National Union of Australian University Students Village scheme, operated by the colonial Australian administration in the late 1960s, where Australian university students stayed in Papua New Guinean villages.
The MG1 collection was recorded in the late 1950s and 1960s by Murray Grove, an anthropologist whose 1956 PhD, awarded by the University of Oxford, was a comparative study of 3 Motuan villages, Boera, Porebada and Manu Manu, near Port Moresby. His research was eventually published as a book in 2011 as The Motu of Papua, Tradition in a Time of Change. Murray's father, William Groves, was the Director of Education in the territory of Papua and New Guinea from 1946 to 1968, during which time Murray lived in Hanubada village teaching English. This influenced him to continue researching Motu history at the Australian National University and then at the University of Auckland as Associate Professor in Social Anthropology from 1959 to 1965. During this time, he was the editor of the Journal of Polynesian Society, bringing it into the mainstream of contemporary professional discourse to make it a leading anthropological journal for the Pacific. From 1965 to 1988, Murray spent time building and directing departments of sociology in Singapore and Hong Kong. But after retirement, he reconnected with his Motu research when he became a visiting fellow at the Australian National University. Murray passed away in Canberra in 2011.
The Peroveta songs represented in this episode cover the languages of Hiri Motu, Hula, Keapara and Mailu from the Motuan coastal villages around Port Moresby to the southeast through Rigo and Abau districts of the Central Province, as well as Rarotongan, also known as Cook Islands Maori. The recordings stretch across decades from the late 1950s to the present day, showing the enduring popularity of Peroveta singing. We open with one of Murray Groves' recordings from the late 1950s, and we hope you enjoy the energy and excitement as we discuss the history and culture of PNG Peroveta singing.
So welcome, Deveni, to your second Toksave podcast interview. It's so lovely to have you back. Today we're going to be talking about Peroveta singing.
Thank you, Jody and Stephen, for giving me this opportunity to tell you about the PNG Peroveta singers of Canberra. I came from Noumea in 1999, and at the independence celebrations in September here in Canberra by the PNG community, there was a group of women who were sitting at a corner after official events was all done, and they were singing Peroveta. I knew 2 of the songs, so I went and joined them, and they really didn't know who I was. So to cut the long story short, I then introduced myself, and I told them my name was Deveni Temu. I was from Keapara village, and I speak Vula, Hula, Keakalo, Aroma language, as well as Motu, both the pure form and the pidginized, or Hiri Motu. So that began the relationship with these 4 or 5 ladies who were singing. And then we started talking in Motu. They told me that there was an informal kind of group that used to meet when the students from PNG used to come down to ANU to study, and mostly Central Province students. So when I arrived in Canberra in 1999, they got me to be involved. We set a calendar that we would meet monthly, and then we would write out the songs. If there is a recording, bring it along, and we can listen to it and try to learn like that. By 2000, we then formalized a group, so people then started to join, and then we found out that it was mostly the elderly or the older generations, young people weren't really interested. But anyway, we've persevered since then. And so from monthly meetings to fortnightly meetings and then weekly meetings when the people get really worked up and enthusiastic. And during the course of this group, several members have passed on through old age, and so they realized that. So one of the reasons why, when we found out PARADISEC was involved in preserving audio or oral story archives, we just thought, what a good opportunity.
We will now hear the PNG Peroveta Singers of Canberra, recorded at the Holy Cross Anglican Church by PARADISEC.
So the very first one is the celebrity song, Sivarai Namo Emekinidai. The word Sivarai is a Motu word, news. Namo, again, is a Motu word, good. So it's the good news, the arrival of the Lord Jesus Christ to the land of Papua New Guinea. And the song goes on to say, hoist the flag high like a light shining all over the region, all over Papua New Guinea, all over the world. Sivarai Namo.
Sivarai Namo Emekinidai Tanoi Doinai Ediarimu
Ediarimu ha he.
Sivarai Namo Emekinidai Tanoi Doinai Ediarimu
Ediarimu ha he. Peroveta singing, interestingly, is an introduced, I suppose, cultural phenomenon in that it wasn't originally ours, but it was introduced by the South Sea Island missionaries, the London Missionary Society, and the first lot of missionaries that came out to PNG was from the Loyalty Islands in 1871. Samuel McFarlane brought them via the Torres Strait, and then came via Daru, Western Province, and along the Gulf, and then eventually to Hanuvada. By about 1884, when the most famous of the South Sea Island missionaries, Ruatoka, came, Ruatoka was from the Cook Islands, so he was brought by Chalmers, James Chalmers. When the South Sea Island missionaries arrived, there was instant rapport between them, and so they established this connection. And through that, Rarotongan and his wife Tongane introduced the singing, teaching.
Okay, they brought the Peroveta over from Cook Island.
Cook Island. And after that, then, it was catching on. Kukiairani, as they say, Maori, Cook Island's language. And they didn't know where it was. But you could hear words like Abraham, Abrahamo, Moses, Mose. Yesu Keriso, Jesus Christ, and so you knew it was to do with the Gospels. But the Gospel stories came later. The Gospel Peroveta singing came later. Most of the old ones were from the Old Testament, like Moses leading the Israelites out and, parting of the sea, all those songs.
Big epic stories, aren't they, from
that's
the
right.
Bible?
So they were first sung in Cook Islands.
And would they have been singing, when they brought it over, would they sing in Motu, or did they originally sing in Cook Islands language?
Originally in Cook Island language. So we're going to travel now to the Cook Islands, Kukiairani. And this one is a Peroveta song in Kukiairani Maori. Kaere kaere tatou.
Kaere tatou ki te ora mane.
Ahi, ahi, ahi.
Kaere
Tatou mate kaere ka mei taki.
Kaere tatou ki te ora mane.
Ahi, ahi, ahi.
Kaere
a good question on the Old Testament. Like, I always relate the Peroveta to prophet songs. Is that kind of along the lines of the Old Testament?
Yeah, so the word Peroveta is a corruption of the word prophets, the book of the Old Testament stories. That's why it's Peroveta. So in Motu we say Peroveta, and also in all the languages anyway, this style of singing is Peroveta. But the Cook Islands, theirs is Imenetuki. A lot of the songs were written because it brings out the essence of the story. A lot of people, because they couldn't read and write, this was all heard oral. And so, I grew up learning about the biblical stories through these songs. It wasn't through reading them at all. I never did till at university level. Then I started looking at the Bible and relating these wonderful Peroveta lyrics to the actual Gospels or the Old Testament stories.
Well, a bit of sort of input on the singing. It's a combination of traditional singing. The voices of people are intrinsic, and the introduction and the blending of like Christian messages now. It's always very harmonious in listening to Peroveta because it's the South Sea influence is blend into the local singing, and it's always like we learn our singing in my part of the world came from the South Seas too. This is a different level. It's harmonious, it's melodic, and it's a touch of local and the messages of Christianity, religious and language. They all kind of combine in the singing. The next song is from the Murray Groves collection. Recorded in the late 1950s, it is about the landmark Taurama, and as Deveni will explain, it contains importance of old stories as well as the coming of the missionaries, demonstrating how Peroveta songs express connection between the old and the new.
That song, that's about a landmark.
Yes.
What's the name of the landmark?
Taurama.
Okay.
That's on the coastline.
Yes.
And does it have significance for when the missionaries came or something? Or
yes, that's the called Diamond Head in English, Taurama. But for us, Hula and Aroma people, we went sailing in to come to Port Moresby to sell our produce. And in the old days anyway, when we used to sail and come past, we would take bunches of bananas or betel nut and throw them to say to the gods, we are coming, let our trade be successful and go back full of money and bags of rice and sugar and flour. And so Taurama is an important landmark for travelers, seafarers anyway. And I think the missionaries also, because in one of the ones that we sing, Taurama Temata Yonovea Mai, come to Taurama, and it also goes on to say all the children that will be born while you are here in Taurama are going to be the ones who are going to fly like birds and spread the word all over our land. So again, it brings that biblical connection, spreading of the message of Jesus Christ. Yeah.
The interesting thing is really the expressions of people. They always had spirituality in them, worshipping something, their own gods, local sort of, and this just like another level. Like now, it's a different God you are referring to now, and the same expressions are still there, but now with the blend of the story of the Bible, how we came into being, it's shifted that. But people were traditionally singers and express themselves already, so that's why it's very fascinating, the journey of of voices and singing. And
when you hear Peroveta, it sounds different to what I would call hymns.
Yes.
Like the melodic structures, that what you're talking about, the voices interacting, there's so much to it.
So in Peroveta there are two vocal parts. There's the pere, sung by the women, and there's the maru by the men. Pere by women, maru by men. And so this is where it gets interesting, because the parts that women sing pere is the most important because they hold the tune. If they go out of tune, the whole singing is going to collapse. But amongst us is a old woman. She's the oldest of all our members. She's over 80. And she's amazing. She sings all this just from memory because she grew up in Hanobada village. And she says when she was a small girl, her father and family used to encourage her because she has this amazing special voice. And so she would do the pere.
My name is Hane Igua Hiladich. I am from Poreporena, Hanobada, Port Moresby.
And so with the pere also there is the person who sings the solo parts with the men, and she goes up in this shrill. In Hula we say verage and motu, and also in Cook Islands they also say pere, vai, so it's really the ornamentation of the voice.
My name is Wari Verave Paul. I come from Babukori. Also know when to come in together and when not to.
There are differences in singing styles in different areas, as in this Magi Mailu song from the Murray Groves collection. The choir will then respond with a different song from the same area.
So that's Magi. That's Magi, that's in Mailu language.
Oh, right.
Mailu. So that's a man singing it. So you will note that that was different. So it's a man who started it. You have one in Magi language, Mailu, and the man will start that song.
So that's distinctive in that area, that region where the
Well,
men
that's
start.
Mailu, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that's how it's happened, and we just follow what they did, yeah.
It's quite distinctive, that one, from the
Yeah,
others.
that's Mailu. And Maru, the parts that men sing, the men come in and they do these sounds, so nuku. They go like that. Yeah.
What do you call that?
Nuku.
Nuku.
Nuku in Motu.
Yeah. So what is that? Is that song? What language is that one in?
That's Rarotongan,
That's right.
Cook Island Maori. So that would be an old one. That's probably one of Ruatoka's. I'm not sure, but yeah, those songs are really old.
Yeah.
Introduced by the first South Sea Island missionaries. So after Ruatoka died, then there was Taina Materua was part Cook Islander and Motu, so he took on the role of teaching Peroveta songs. So he travelled, within the Hanobada villages and surrounding areas of Motu, but also outside of Motu. Taina Materua I was accorded the, I suppose, the role of teaching Peroveta and trying to maintain it and retain it.
When you grew up, say you went to church in your village and they're singing Peroveta songs, so you weren't sitting there looking at a Bible, you were hearing the songs.
We don't see. This is the thing. In our villages, people don't have the songs written down. You can't, not printed. It's all here in your head. And some people can sing up to 100, just remembering them.
And they're very complex.
Yes, very complex.
So how do you learn Peroveta? How do you go about learning it?
With us, you see, with us here, that's why we've written them down.
Yeah.
And this is why we have our Peroveta book. This is all written, but that's the diaspora. But if you're in the village, like we were back home last Christmas, people were just singing 50 of these Peroveta songs without referring to any printed source.
We will now hear a range of Christmas songs, starting with an ute, sung in Hula language by the Canberra singers, followed by a Tubusera carol recorded in 1969 by Ian Campbell, and finally, a response to this early recording by the choir.
Has Peroveta changed?
Yeah.
From that was recorded in 1969.
Yeah,
and
they
so
sing it slightly different from how we sing it. We sing it in Hanuabada style, so Tubuserea, and that's the problem. So if we meet and then we sing, so they choose. We sing it Hanuabada way, Kila Kila way, Pari way. Yeah, there's slight differences.
Are they different regions?
Different villages.
And they have their own style.
Yeah, it's the same language. It's a Motu language.
It's one language.
But they just the different villages.
They sing it differently because of accents and things like that.
Talk a little bit what it means to sing Peroveta.
You see, when people sing it, there's this amazing feeling. You get enlivened, if I can use that word.
You can feel the energy.
Yeah, you can feel the energy, and and sometimes it moves you to tears. Because of the lyrics, but also the sound. Sometimes there's this solo voice rising above everybody else, almost in a lament. But through this singing, we want to also preserve those languages, like the Keakalo language, the Mailu language we're going to sing in, and of course Motu. I mean, the language connection is very important for, I suppose, my generation of people. And so when we sing, we always say it's always good to praise who you believe in your mother tongue. It connects you so much better, so much closer, instead of in English. And you see, when we sing Peroveta, I suppose, as some of the women said to me, you feel closer. You are praising who you believe in the lyrics, and these lyrics are just wonderfully express my feelings of how I feel.
Before Tommy Dietz introduces the final song, which has special significance for people living in the diaspora, we will hear group members Laka Gwilliam and Teresa Hogg share their thoughts on the meaning of singing Peroveta and Papua New Guinean cultural songs here in Canberra.
My name is Teresa Hogg, and my maiden name is Gorogo. My dad is from Dora, Central District, and my mom is from Hula Island. I grew up in Gabutu, and I'm here with the group because of all the positivity, the leadership, and the academic and the history that they bring to promoting Papua New Guinea culture.
My name is Laka Wala Gwilliam. I believe this group has been encouraged our faith and our culture and who are we in Canberra.
This song, Bese Veridia, means to all our family, and it's about family. It was written in World War II by More. And it was when the people of Hanawara village were evacuated to Malara. And when they were settled there, waiting to return to their homes, they lamented the fact that they were separated from their homes and had no idea when they would ever return. And so this gentleman composed this song about the time that they would return. When would they return? Because they're like birds flying around aimlessly with nowhere to land. And we, diaspora, take this song very much to our hearts because we, like them, are like birds flying around the globe. We don't know when we'll ever return to our homeland. And so it's very meaningful for all Central people across the globe.
Thank you, Deveni Temu and the PNG Peroveta Singers of Canberra for joining us on Toksave Culture Talks. It has been wonderful to hear your beautiful Peroveta singing and to learn more about this unique Papua New Guinea music genre. These recordings will be added to the PARADISEC archive in the PC2 collection. We would also like to thank Ian Campbell and Mari Groves for their recordings in the IC1 and MG1 collections.
If you would like to access these collections and the TCT1 collection of our podcast recordings, or find out more about PARADISEC, the work we do, and the online catalogue, you can visit our website at www.paradisec.org.au.
Toksave Culture Talks was launched as part of the United Nations International Year of Indigenous Languages in 2019.
We would like to acknowledge the support of the Australian Research Council's Centre of Excellence for the Dynamics of Language and the University of Sydney, the University of Melbourne, and the Australian National University.